Hi, everybody. My name is Cassandra Petrella. I am the founder of the I Love Me campaign, and I'm a registered psychotherapist here in Ottawa at Senta Counseling Services. So, I will begin by telling you a little bit about who I am and what kind of brings me to be talking to you today about self love and women's empowerment. I'm a psychotherapist that works here at a mental health clinic that I'm the clinical director for. One of the main components of the treatment that we do is working with young teen girls. Early on, when I began to practice, and I was really providing treatment to young girls related to these more serious mental health issues, such as depression, anxiety, suicidality, self harm, eating disorders, some of this more really serious stuff that teens can go through. I started to ask girls during the assessment phase, tell me a little bit about how you feel about yourself, and tell me about the things that maybe you like about yourself and something wonderful. And a lot of times these young girls would sort of look at me and either say, I don't know what you mean, or I don't know how to answer, or in fact tell me that they hated themselves. And this was really heartbreaking to me to hear. I was very saddened by it to think that, in our community here, why am I meeting with so many girls that have no capacity for self love? And I think that's a very big problem when we see teens suffering with self esteem, because I think it's the kind of beginning stage for them that if they don't have that foundation of good self esteem, that they are then sort of at risk for more serious mental health issues occurring. And when I started to wonder more about it, I started to think about myself as a teen. And right away, the emotions and that kind of internal experience that I had and the grapples that I had with self-esteem came flooding back to me. And I realized, yeah, on some level, I could relate to how tough it was to be a teen and what that experience was like inside. And I also thought about how, in schools or, just in my own social circle, nobody ever talked to me about self esteem or taught me to be good to myself or value myself. I think a lot of the socializing that I got with my own parents, who were very loving towards me, they did, though, kind of place a value on being good to others, taking care of other people, being polite, being kind. Very, very important values. But there was, even something missing in my own background around learning about what it means to kind of really value myself. And that was really the starting point for the work that I do with young teen girls. And so it became this kind of vision for me to go out into the community and provide free mental health education for teen girls to really cultivate and help them grow in their capacity for self-love and in their mental health skills. And that's the work that we've been doing for the last 5 years. And the campaign has grown, and we do a lot of work with women as well. And that's where I'm sort of coming to you from in this talk today. And so today I will be talking to you about our capacity as women to self-love and our ability to empower each other as we celebrate International Women's Day together. And so really for women, it's not easy as well for us. It's hard for teens, but it's super hard still as women. We have a lot on our shoulders, and we have our work cut out for us when it comes to having good self-esteem. Because really we're raised in a culture that socializes us to be better, be good to other people. That's that innate kind of caregiving component that's within us as women, right? And that's what really comes out, that capacity to put other people first, especially in a tight-knit community such as yours on the island. And so, really these are, again, great messages, important values, but we don't always spend a lot of time kind of taking stock of, what about me and how am I doing? And many of us are plagued by a strong inner critic. We really kind of can cycle through the day and have thoughts like, I'm not as good as somebody else. I don't look the same. I'm not as skinny. I'm not as pretty. I'm not as smart. We can be really, really hard on ourselves because it's human nature to evaluate ourselves. It's human nature to want to put our best foot forward. But when that gets cyclical and chronic, it does turn into low self-esteem because it's not a very happy place to be in your mind and be so tough and critical on yourselves. And there's a question here of, well, how does this happen to us? Where does this all come from? Because I believe that as babies, when we're born into this world, we're all born equal and pure and whole. I have a beautiful newborn daughter. She's 4 months old. And when, I hold her in my arms and I look at her and she's just happy and peaceful and wants to be close to us. And as long as, she's fed and she's slept well, she doesn't have a care in the world. And that really, for me, is a representation when I look at her of that kind of original feeling of all babies are born equal into this world. So then what happens to us as we as women go forward and then start to believe that we're not as good? And I really believe that it's society, the messages that we get from other people that then really shape our self-beliefs and start to make us question our worth. Perhaps it was early childhood experiences, maybe with caregivers who, even though our parents do the best that they can, aren't always equipped with tools to really know how to develop good psychological health for us. Maybe they were critical, maybe your parents were strict, maybe it was hard for them to understand. Perhaps you were, in a school setting where there was a lot of pressure. Our schools are such important, institutions and are so valuable to us, but they are comparative in the nature of the grading system. So when we're in school, we're aware of, how am I doing compared to other people? What was my grade? And that from a very young age becomes a platform for, I believe, self-pressure on ourselves as well. Maybe in the school setting, there was a bully, or even when you were older, there was somebody who wasn't good to you and really kind of got to you and perhaps gave you messaging that maybe you're different, that you're not the same, and maybe that made you feel lesser than. And I think on a larger level in our society, we are, a culture that really breeds self-doubt. The commercials and the advertisement that are thrown at us, the primary foundation of a lot of women's health products are, you aren't good, you have to buy our product and spend our money to be better. Oh yes, I'm going to go and buy that mascara. But then that means, oh, maybe I don't have nice eyelashes and maybe they're not as nice as the model who's on TV. So this constant kind of consumerism that really feeds off of that little kind of nagging feeling that maybe I'm not enough. So there's that manipulation that then comes into play with the advertising industry. And then as well, social media. I mean, we're bombarded with so much information these days. It's really hard to kind of keep up and stay strong mentally when you've got all of this information thrown at you. And there's that kind of comparison piece of what you see other people presenting online. And it doesn't always make you feel good about yourself. This year's theme for International Women's Day is choosing to challenge gender norms and speaking up for equality amongst women. Really coming together and taking a stand so that we make a better place for our world, for the women and the young girls that live in it. And so this theme really also does highlight for us that, yes, indeed, we do live in a culture where women are historically seen as lesser than in a lot of domains, such as working in professional settings. And I have to say, I heard that in your own group with the CAMI group that in your English speaking community on Grosse Ile, that a lot of the leadership roles are held by women. And that made me very happy to hear. And that's incredible, but it isn't really the norm across Canada. And so really then we're reminded, even just by seeing that theme, that we're called to choose to challenge, we still live in a place where women can be seen as a minority, or where women of color are then doubly oppressed. And so when that bias still does exist in our society, and even though we've made strides in the last few decades, when that bias is there, it really does get to us on an unconscious level, where as women, we feel like we have to work harder to prove ourselves. It's a lot of work. It's exhausting, and I'm sure we can all relate to that feeling, having a lot on our shoulders, but really having to push forward. I've got to be everything for everybody. It's a lot. It's a lot that we can carry on our shoulders. And so as we think as well about the theme of this year, it's really about bringing women together and supporting each other as women. Being able to find ways to love ourselves and be good to ourselves then also grows our capacity to be supportive of other women. It's a nice thing to say, yes, let's all come together, but it's not always the case. Sometimes in our communities there's cliques, or sometimes there's hierarchies, or sometimes somebody says something and everyone in the room looks at each other with judgment towards that person. It does happen. And I think there's room for all of us to grow in our capacity for empathy and compassion towards other women. Because when we can really move forward in our world in a way that's non-judgmental to others, we're then kind of creating a society or a culture that is loving and supportive. And each of us has a responsibility to create that. And so connection and support and community has never been so important to us because we're living through this pandemic together. It's been so hard on us. It's been so isolating. It's really, really made us value what it feels like to be together and to have connection. I think one of the greatest losses that we're experiencing right now is that sense of isolation, and is, having that missing piece that's usually there for us in terms of a support system. Because as humans, we're social beings. We need connection to survive well. And now that it's being kind of taken from us, or we're being told by our government that we can't get together and be together, it really does tear down our sense of mental well-being. And so I think one of the things that we're learning from the pandemic is once, we can either come back together, or once we have opportunities such as this to connect virtually, we really want to make the most of it. And we really want to support each other as women. And this is important for us to model to young girls in our community how to kind of be together, how to support each other, how to empower each other. We all walk our own journey in life. It's important to be patient, to be kind, and to be loving with each other. And we really want to create that sense of togetherness so that our young girls that we are striving to empower have a sense, a place where they feel supported, where vulnerability is modeled for them, where people can talk about how they really feel, where women can talk about their sense of mental health without being afraid that there's a stigma or that there's judgment in their settings, to really model that sense of support, especially during a time like this, during the pandemic. And I really feel that to create that sense of connection, as I was saying earlier, that self-love is that starting point for it. And we can grow our capacity for self-love. We can learn about it. We can find strategies and ways to cultivate it and practice it every day to be able to improve our own self-esteem. And I really feel that self-love is the starting point. It's the foundation for happiness and for mental health. And some of my self-love tips that I can share with you that I want you to kind of take in and kind of maybe leave this presentation with some practice points to increase that capacity for you and to cultivate more self-love would be to kind of check in with yourself each day and either have a journal or just have a quiet moment with yourself where either, you're writing down some notes about your own self-thoughts, or you're just kind of taking stock and asking yourself some of these questions. What does my self-talk look like today? Have I been critical or kind? Am I being gentle in the way that I'm speaking to myself? Am I being supportive? Have I said anything nice to myself today? Have I slowed down and appreciated myself? Have I noticed anything good that I am proud of today? These are really powerful questions because most of us don't slow down to really value ourselves and pay attention. So it helps us when we look at these types of questions to move from, that go, 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 do better attitude that sometimes makes us feel like we're not good enough because we're constantly in motion, doing more and more and more. And then when we actually slow down, we can bring in the good. We can have a moment to just sit with ourselves and be proud of either everything we've done that day or just something amazing that we've contributed to this world, or even in a smaller capacity to your family, or even just yourself. And so I want to practice together in this moment. As we kind of close off our time together, we're going to end with what I call a hand over heart exercise. And I'm going to be repeating some really important self love affirmations to you. And I want you to really try and be present in this exercise and practice, because practice is then that foundation for growth. And so we're going to do it now together. And I hope that you can carry this type of practice with you throughout this week and continue to do it on your own time as well. And so let's all come together now in a feeling of interconnectedness, even though we're virtual. Let's just feel that sense of collective whole. And then let's really turn our energy and our attention inward for a moment and really find a way to be present with yourself to really kind of absorb and take in this exercise. And so what I want you to do is just kind of look down, or maybe even close your eyes if you're comfortable, to just really create more presence. And then I want you to take 3 deep breaths to really center your heart and clear your mind. So breathing in and out, in and out, in and out. And now I'm going to begin to repeat these self-love affirmations. And I either want you to repeat them as I say them in your head, or if you're courageous enough in this moment, to say them out loud with confidence. I am worthy. I am loving. I am good. I am kind. And I deserve self-love. One more time. I am worthy. I am loving. I am good. I am kind. And I deserve self-love. So we'll come back together now and we'll end our presentation there. And I hope that you can carry that feeling with you today as you move through the rest of your evening and as you move through the rest of your week. And my hope for you is that perhaps you took just maybe one small thing from this presentation that you can integrate into your life to create a bit more happiness or mental well-being. And I will put together for the CAMI group a handout on the 2 exercises that we did today. So that final hand over heart exercise and that tips for really taking stock of your self-talk or journaling or writing together. And we'll get that to you by email so that it's something that you can continue to practice at home. So thank you for being with me here tonight. And please move forward in self-love and empower each other as women.